I've received quite a lot of interesting messages about my statement that the Conservative Party is dead and that it's Rishi Sunak rather than Boris Johnson who has killed it. And I must say, there's some misunderstanding, and of course, I have to clarify. And the clarification is I am, of course, absolutely opposed to the Rwanda plan, but it's not the Rwanda plan as such which I object to so firmly. It's Rishi Sunak's understanding that he can define into existence a challenge to the Supreme Court, that he can say, in effect, that red is green. That's something that has been defined by the Supreme Court as unsafe. Rishi Sunak can legislate as safe. And that puts him well beyond the Suella Braverman position of challenging the law or testing the limits of the law, which of course any burglar would do. This puts Rishi Sunak firmly in the position of tyranny. Somebody who runs a country that can define what is right and what is wrong, rather than what a country that accepts what is right and what is wrong. We are in a position where the government has decided it is going to define morality, and that I find abhorrent. Now, if Rishi Sunak wants to pull back from that, I've been pressed on this as well. If Rishi Sunak wanted to pull back from that, would I accept that he was not beyond the pale? Yes, of course, I accept that anybody can make mistakes and that anybody can be redeemed. And the cabinet at the moment, we're now hearing there are moderates and there are extremists. It's a bit disturbing that the Prime Minister is one of the extremists, but senior cabinet ministers like James Cleverly and Victoria Prentice, and even Alex Chalk, the Justice Secretary, all of them actually, I think, are good people. I don't think James Cleverly is the most intelligent Home Secretary that we've had, but, I like him. They all have reservations, and they think that it will not come to the edge. And in fact, my chats with people have suggested that the whole idea here is to set up an agreement, a treaty with Rwanda, which will take at least until after Christmas to come through the British court system, let alone whether or not it's fully drafted in the next few days. If it were, it would still take until January to come through. And that, Rishi Sunak imagines, is enough time to get the ERG and the neoconservatives under control in preparation for a general election. By January, it would be absurd to challenge the Prime Minister in a leadership election, given the possibility of an election in May, or in a general election in May, or at the very latest in October. It would be absurd. So the other problem on the other side is the danger of sounding tough and failing to deliver, of being all noise. So where do we go? This is the crunch, really. James Cleverly is off to Kigali for the announcement at some point soon, and the new treaty will have within it the idea that no migrant can be sent from Rwanda to any other country except for the UK. Now, I find that an intriguing and rather positive idea. That brings with it the idea that oddly, people who have had their asylum application rejected in Rwanda would actually end up back in the UK, would it not? That it sort of defies credibility, but that is presumably the reality. it's back to front. I would have thought the real ideal of this would be that if somebody qualifies for asylum and is judged to qualify for asylum after being investigated in Rwanda, then they should get that asylum in the UK, which is where they initially sought refuge. Oddly, it seems to be the reverse. So people who want asylum will get it in Rwanda. People who don't want asylum or don't qualify will come back to the UK and will go back through the same hoops that we're in here, where we can't get rid of them. I mean, how do you get rid of somebody who's been in another country at our command? I think it would be terribly difficult. So getting the flights off the ground, will that happen? Even if it were to happen between January and May, that would be very few flights that take off. Very few. It would be gesture flights at the very most. And given the possibility that a Starmer government would reverse the entire system, what is the point? What is the point? So this is all posture. And maybe it's time to put away Suella Braverman's diaries, which probably are written to the same tune as Nadine Dorries' extraordinary book, The Plot, as indeed Liz Truss's speeches, as indeed Robert Jenrick's rantings. All of these people just need to put their notes in the shredder and get on with something else. There is time, for example, to set up an international conference and try and thrash this out. After all, there was an international conference set up in Egypt in a matter of a few days. And this is a pressing issue. Migration is a pressing issue. And I think perhaps one has to have hope that people like Victoria Prentice, the Attorney General, is one of those who is questioning the Prime Minister's decision about this. And yesterday I noticed Jeremy Hunt just teasing us with the slightest reservations that if everything else failed, there may have to be legislation. Surely the whole point is that legislation is the first prong of this Rwanda initiative. Maybe not. Maybe not. I think maybe there is credibility in what I'm being told, that this is all hot air. Wind. But with wind, as Boris Johnson discovered, there is always the possibility of follow-through.